Here on the pregame show, Paul Yeager with Iowa City West head coach Garrett Hartwig. It's not often I get to talk to coaches twice in a season, but that means we're in the playoffs. So let's go through last week a little bit. What did that win say about your squad?
I think it just kind of showed our development through the season. Last time we spoke mid-season, we were not playing very well defensively, and then we came out that game against Ankeny and did not play well offensively and played a little better defensively. So I think more than anything, it's just a matter of getting into the playoffs, and then you want to be playing your best football at the right time. And, we're playing well in all three phases right now. Our defense has really come on the second half of the year, and our offense has continued to move the ball. And our special teams need to be solid. But really, I think it's just a compilation of, all three phases playing well, which you have to have in the playoffs.
I think Bendorf is done seeing a team that has Iowa City in the first two letters, two words of their last two opponents. That's a squad that you can use that game that they had against City High a little bit to look, because how City High does things to you. How does the tape situation at this time of year? I mean, you could watch tape forever, Coach. But how is it any different for you when it looks at matchups in the postseason than it does in the regular season?
Well, to be honest with you, every season's different, but that is the 11th time that we've faced Bettendorf in the 11 years I've been a head coach, and they haven't been on our regular season schedule, which tells you that we've met in the playoffs quite a few times. And so we have a long history with them. I know Coach Wiley, I won't say really well, but as far as the coaching ranks go, I know him and respect him and his program. They do a great job. So part of what our game planning goes into is certainly knowing the history of Bettendorf. They're a hard-nosed, tough team every year in, year out. So understanding that part of it and the physicality side of it. And then, every season's different players, obviously. So then you have to kind of match up and see what you know about them from your history and what they're doing currently. And, they're a good team. So we had our hands full. But watching, how other teams attacked them is certainly helpful, like any coach would say. And try to put some of the things that worked in your game plan that the opponents used that may have worked against them, but you never know if it's really going to work. Mm-hmm. So really it's knowing their history, scouting them certainly, and then really focusing on us, playing the best that we can to get ready for a game.
Speaking of playing well, how about Jack Wallace, huh? I mean, that guy just keeps, every single time I read another article, he set another school record. What's Jack been doing in elevating his game in this last stretch?
It sounds crazy, but he's been incredibly coachable. A guy that's, he's set pretty much every significant record you can have as a quarterback in our program. And a lot of that is due to his toughness and his ability to stay on the field over these 4 years, starting as a freshman. But even with that in mind, had some new offensive coaches come in this year, and he has taken to their coaching incredibly well, which for a senior who's had so many starts, that may not always be the case. But Jack has remained incredibly coachable. He's always had the ability, and, it's a credit to his work. I mean, the hours he puts in outside of our off season, we have, like any 5A program, we have a very intense off season, but he goes well above and beyond that on his own. And the work and the results are speaking to his work ethic, his focus, and his competitiveness, man. I mean, we've been on the cusp of being in the playoffs the last 2 years. We've had tough schedules, and I think we finished 17 one year and 18 another year, his sophomore and junior year, as far as the RPI goes. And nobody's wanted it more, and he's put in the work.
It's helped having a good running back, too. Butali was impressive the night we saw him. How has his game progressed?
Butali's kind of he's a unique young man. I mean, he's a brilliant kid, first and foremost. So he's very smart, and he's very, very underwhelming as far as a presence goes. But man, when he gets the helmet on, he's as competitive as as any player we've ever had. He's not big. He doesn't pass the eye test, so to speak, when walking off the bus. But he was in a position last year where he was actually third on our depth chart, and he continued to just show up, get results when we put him in the game, to the point where he was starting at the end of last year, and he's taking his game to another level. And he's not big, and he'll be the first one to tell you that, but he is tough. Pound for pound, he's very strong. He's quick, and I think he's got two underrated facets of his game. He's got great balance. He's very athletic, and then he never stops his feet. So he's a great kid, and it starts with his mentality, his competitiveness, his intelligence, and then just the will to keep working.
And the one thing against Ankeny late in that game, it was always that collective hold your breath. At some point, Mason Woods is going to pop off, and he did there at the end. And he just showed how big of an upside he has, and what teams have had a hard time defending all year for him. But Mason is a guy that you need to do many things for you. What has stood out for you in his play here down the stretch?
Mason's become the player that we always knew he could be. He was hit with injuries throughout his early career. He played well as a sophomore. It's difficult for sophomores to really pop, at the varsity level in 5A. Last year as a junior, he was hitting his stride, but he went down with a really nasty ankle injury on a punt return. I think it was week 6 or 7. I believe it was week 6 actually. And that was, he toughed it out and played through the rest of the season, but it was difficult for him, and he was really starting to kind of show flashes of that. And his senior year, he hit the ground running, and he hasn't looked back. And he's as athletic and as talented of a player as I've ever coached in this program physically. He's got all the gifts, and it's just kind of come with some maturity and maturation mentally for him. He's also got a lot of pressure on him, given who he is, and that I don't care who you are as a 16, 17, and now 18-year-old young man like that. That's hard to do. Mm-hmm. He's never seemed to let it bother him, but can't escape it either. So he's really had his injuries not derailed him over the course of his sophomore and junior year. I think this year would have been no surprise, and I don't think it really surprised anybody anyway. But this is the year that it's kind of all come together for him.
Speaking of injuries, Southeast Polk had a big one to Sam Zelenovich, and that is a guy that everybody knew coming into the season, watching this season, really tough to play. But their quarterback, the one thing I've heard from coaches over here, they've just been super impressed with Holden Hansen each and every week. I'm sure he stood out to tape on you. What else stands out about Polk for you tonight?
Well, they're very well coached. I have a lot of respect for Coach Zelenovich and their staff. I mean, you're not a 3-time defending state champion for nothing. And they've had great talent, and I'm sure he'd be the first one to say that. But it's what you do with that talent that gets you to that game, that 13th game, and to win it's incredibly hard. So on film, man, they're impressive. Like, I think the biggest compliment I can give to an opposing team is that there are no weaknesses. And so what we have to do is play a well-rounded game in all 3 phases to beat them. And number 6, man, he was a player. And my heart breaks for that. I mean, it's you never want to see that to any player, any opponent, certainly, and certainly not your own players. And I feel bad for him, but he put in so much work. I know that, and he had a great season. It's tough. You never want to see that happen to a young man, and he's got bigger days ahead. I know he's gonna be. I think he's playing for Iowa State down the road, and I think he's gonna do very well there. But yeah, that being said, football's an 11-member game at any given moment, and they've got players everywhere. And their quarterback, number 7, man, he's good, and he's efficient. I think that's probably the best way I can put it is he doesn't make mistakes, and we got our hands full.
Helps when you have a guy named Kyle Orton in his ear all the time at every play. That helps having one of those events. Quickly, what do you see as keys tonight?
Offensively, staying on schedule. When we haven't produced offensively, it's because we've gotten ourselves in the hole of a play that goes for a loss or a penalty that sets us back. Defensively, not giving up the big play. Last week, it was a tight game, and our defense played well. Bettendorf had the ball inside the 30 in the first half 3 times and came away with 3 points. They played tough almost the entire game, gave up an 82-yard touchdown pass. So defensively limiting the big plays, which Southeast Polk is capable of getting any snap. And then special teams wise, it comes down to the field position kind of thing. You have got to be good with your hidden yardage. The punt game is big. The punt return game is big. Kickoff coverage, kickoff return yards if you can get them. And then turnovers, turnovers are the name of the game. We got 2 against Bettendorf, didn't turn it over once, and I think that was probably a huge deciding factor.
All right, Coach, enjoy your time on the bus, I should say. It's always good. You're still playing, and 1 win away from the Dome. That's Garrett Hartwig, head coach at Iowa City West. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, our pregame show continues here on CISN.